welcome, Dan. You are a financial representative at Milestone Wealth. Okay. Now, I always wondered. There are advisors to accumulate wealth, right? Uh,
Yes.
are there any advisors to tell people who are in poverty how to get out of poverty? You. Okay. Go ahead, Dan. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Interesting question. I mean, officially, I'm a certified financial planner. So as a financial planner, yeah, I help people improve their situation, regardless of what it is. So it can mean increasing their wealth or getting wealth.
Or a little bit of both.
Absolutely.
Our first guest was James Levy, who was a blockchain expert. Do you have any thoughts on blockchain, or I have a mental block a little bit yet with blockchain.
Yeah, I
what are
mean,
your thoughts on that?
it's becoming more and more mainstream. That just probably in the last year or so, that there's ways for professionals like me to actually purchase it for clients. And we still I can't buy Bitcoin. We can't buy cryptocurrencies because you can only buy those on certain websites, and they're not registered securities that, again, a stockbroker, a financial advisor can buy. But now there's companies like MicroStrategy. MicroStrategy is a software company that started buying Bitcoin, and now they own $4 billion of Bitcoin, which represents like 80% of their market cap. So
wow.
If you buy MicroStrategy, you're buying Bitcoin, and their stock now goes up and down more based on the value of Bitcoin than their business.
They really fit into the market then, didn't they, with Bitcoin?
Yeah. So and what it does, for better or for worse, and I'm like you, I really fought this for a while, and I'm still fighting it, but people ask me about it, and people want to know, and people want to get involved. So again, because I can't buy cryptocurrency for them, they can buy MicroStrategy. There's an ETF out there called Block, BLOK, which ends up buying a bunch of companies that are involved in cryptocurrency, or that maybe have started to incorporate it more in their business. So there's ways officially to kind of get involved. As a financial advisor, am I a big proponent of it? Not yet. It's going to be its own asset class, I think. Historical asset allocation. There's stocks, there's bonds, there's precious metals. I think this is going to march to its own drum. To an extent, can it be like a gold or precious metal that can work against the value of the dollar potentially? But I think there's still a lot of unknown. So it's treading with care. Tread carefully.
If I were your client now, and we're still somewhat in the pandemic, but hopefully getting out of it soon, what would your advice be to me? Let's say I'm middle class or upper middle class. What would your advice be to me to invest in this pandemic, hopefully going into post-pandemic economy?
Well, I mean, first of all, even though it's been a pandemic, you would have done okay, over the last 12 to 15 months. The market has done fine. So first of all, the people that didn't necessarily panic and move out, if they stayed put, they've done fine. What's happening now is, I think the market is transitioning from these lockdown stocks, and what we're seeing is a lot of the tech stocks that did tremendously during the lockdown. Now the market is transitioning to the stocks that should do better under the opening up of the economy. So a lot of the more traditional stocks, and in some cases some of the travel and leisure, the air transportation, these stocks are going to flourish as the economy opens up. Possibly take advantage of where this government seems to be spending money, maybe some green energy, infrastructure, So that's the transition that's happening away from the tech stocks that did very well. Amazon obviously,
Right.
crushed it during the pandemic. All the virtual meeting, Zoom, any kind of retail, cyber retail companies. So there's a handful of companies that were able to crush it during the lockdown. Now I think the market is transitioning to this post-lockdown, economy opening up world.
Biden just said he wants to increase federal contractors' pay to a minimum of $15 an hour. My first question is, what do you think of it? And my second question is, when does it pass, and when can I quit this and become a federal contractor?
Yeah, well, hopefully, any part of this tax bill, if it passes, first of all, what's being proposed right now and what ultimately passes are obviously two different things. The assumption, I think, by the market is that whatever passes isn't going to kick in until 2022. Therefore, I don't think the market is super concerned about it right now, at least for the foreseeable 6 months. Obviously, that besides this federal minimum wage, there's probably some bigger issues there with capital gains and so on. The market, I don't think, is going to really worry about it while we're kind of coming out of the pandemic. But to answer your question more specifically, it's probably going to kick in for next year. And of all the things being proposed, I think that's, frankly, probably the least problematic of all the stuff. The minimum wage for federal contractors. So I don't know that in and of itself is going to be a real economic or certainly a stock market issue. There's other stuff, in his proposal that I think we should all be probably a little more concerned about. But
Thank you. You mentioned
and stay put for the time being.
Okay, thank you. You mentioned briefly about climate change and infrastructure. When you say them together, I just think, here's my solution. What you do is, with infrastructure, you create new highways, and instead of using black pavement, you use green pavement. So it's the green movement and infrastructure at the same time. But seriously, though, do you think we can achieve economic growth through the green movement and climate change? How do you feel about that?
The tricky question. I think, frankly, that the United States doing the stuff that is being proposed as far as green energy and climate change probably isn't going to have a huge effect on the global climate, because the U.S. apparently is, the only country that really cares. And China isn't going to do anything differently. Russia probably isn't going to do anything differently. So we're going to make these sacrifices, and in some cases ask, people to spend more money to satisfy some of this green energy, Green New Deal proposals, and it's not really going to have a huge effect. So no, I think short term, their counter force is working. We're gonna spend more money. It's going to cost everybody more money, and I don't see how it's going to help the economy. It'll help certain sectors, but generally, as far as the financial health of everyone, it's going to work against it.
Another question about that is, where do you see infrastructure playing in, and will the green movement hinder the infrastructure? I mean, will it impose rules that won't create jobs? Do you see any job creation with all of this that's going on? And where?
Well, right now, you would think the construction industry, and we're talking about infrastructure. If we're talking about roads and bridges and the construction of that, yes, yeah, those are jobs I think that are going to be created. Generally, I'm not a real proponent of most of the things I've read in the Green New Deal, but infrastructure, and you're right, they're tossed around together, but in some cases they can mean different things. So no, the part of the infrastructure that is obviously a good idea is the improvement of roads and bridges, which nationwide is absolutely needed. There's a lot of roads and bridges that are just falling apart around the country. So that money spent is well spent, and it will create jobs.
I just want to say something else. I know China is way behind us in climate, in the Green New Deal, Russia also, but Europe seems to be a little bit ahead of us. And as a travel expert, I think one country won't go for the Green New Deal. And you know what country? Holland. Can you imagine tourists going to Holland, seeing somebody in a Dutch costume with wooden shoes and tulip fields, and then there's instead of a windmill, there's one of those new solar windmills instead. No one will want to go there and take pictures anymore.
Yeah. No, but it's got to be a global effort. And again, this is I'm kind of stepping out of the financial conversation, but it's got to be a global effort, or if not, and I know the U.S. wants to lead the way, but if it's not a global effort, then it's going to be a lot of sacrifice and a lot of money spent with very little benefit, in my estimation.
To people who are watching the show today, of course, I'd like them to contact you if they need financial advice, number one, and Milestone. Number two is, what advice would you have for the average guy or gal, or in the case of who's running for the governor of California, or the average tranny? What's the advice you would give?
Well, look, generally speaking, avoid, when it comes to financial planning and investing, and I'm not talking about short-term speculators or people that are trading. If you're putting money away in your 401k or in an IRA or long-term investing, it's hard not to get wrapped up in what's going on, day to day, but you have to avoid getting wrapped up what's going on day to day, because, again, last year, case in point, we have this lockdown, very easy to get caught up in the emotion and try to time the market and get in and out. And if you had stayed put, you would be fine. And generally speaking, that's the advice. When you look at the S&P 500 over years, and I don't mean decades, I mean in rolling 6 or 7 year periods, it's actually fairly stable and fairly predictable. Year to year, it absolutely is not. So the best advice is pick a strategy, pick an investment philosophy, stick to it, and don't try to get too caught up in what's going on day to day.
Great. And if people want to reach you, how can they reach you? They like what you say. How can they reach you? This is a chance for you to do a commercial.
Yep. No, my email is my first initial and last name, so it's D Hernandez at Lincoln Investment, lowercase singular, ending in T.com. So D Hernandez at LincolnInvestment.com. I appreciate the time today, and good luck with the rest of the show.
Thank you very much for being the guest. I hope to see you again.
All right. Have a good day. Thanks.
By the phone. I'll be calling when this is over.
Very good.
Take care, Dan.